Alright guys, today we're going to be diving into a classic film, one of those comedies that just gets better with time. And that comedy I'm talking about is the one, the only, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, starring comedic genius Don Knotts. And if you don't know, you probably know about Don Knotts if you're familiar with the Andy Griffith Show. And you'll know that Knotts played the Deputy Sheriff Barney Fife for the first 5 seasons of that show, and then returned in season 6 for 2 episodes, because he left the show thinking that it was going to be ending after its 5th season, so he went out and signed a deal with Universal to do a few films, one of which was The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which is a fucking hilarious 1966 horror comedy. And if you haven't noticed, we still got my little buddy here, my little son. I'm still waiting for his cabinet to get delivered. It's going to be a curio cabinet. I'm going to put it out here in the corner. It might be off camera after editing this, but for now, he's going to be back there, and I'm going to try and muddle through this. I've got a sore throat, not feeling the best, but you know what? The show must go on. I'm going to power through as best I can. If my throat gives out, I will sign language this bitch. And as I was saying, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken is a 1966 film. It's a horror comedy starring, again, Don Knotts. And it's got its spooky moments, actually, if I'm being quite honest. He plays the character Luther Heggs, and if you're familiar with Don Knotts' portrayal of characters, especially as Barney Fife, then you already know that Luther Heggs is excitable, not in the positive manner, meaning that he panics a lot. He is nervous and shy. Overall, he's just very Don Knotts. It's the best way I can put it for that character. Whenever you see Don Knotts playing a character, then you know it's a Don Knotts character. Get out of my way here. Sorry, I'm getting pop-ups. I don't care if Zoom is not working. I'm not using fucking Zoom. You did this the last time. Because I got my script up here because I have to write these things out because I watch the movies and then I got to script my thoughts and everything. And I don't need pop-ups from taking out my script. Because I'm not going to lie and tell you that I'm going to ad-lib this shit. I don't ad-lib my reviews. Because when I do, they're horrible. Now, the movie's got small-town charm. It's spooky fun. And a lead character who is equal parts cowardly and lovable. And today we're going to be breaking it all down. The story, the performances, and why this movie still holds up almost 60 years later. Has it really been almost 60 years? Time flies and we're all getting old. I'm going to be 30 this year, you know. I'm almost half the age of my character, Grandma Michelle. I'm getting sidetracked. Don't we love autism? So grab some popcorn if you want some butter or non-buttered, but you don't put butter on your popcorn. What the fuck is wrong with you? Because we're heading into Rachel, Kansas, where things are about to get a little haunted. This thing needs to be loosened. Now, if you're seeing this is either a video clip from the film, or it's going to be a still image, whatever copyright will allow. And now, before my face returns from behind whatever I'm showing you here, be warned of this review will have light spoilers. So if you don't want to know too much about the movie, stop now. And watch it yourself. It's a good movie. You can find it just about anywhere where you can stream, and you can also get it on DVD. I think you can get it wherever you stream. I don't know. I have a DVD copy of it, so I just watched that. I've seen it before, but I had to rewatch it so I could do this review because I haven't watched it in like 5 years. Now my face will reappear in 3, 2, and... So what's the deal with The Ghost of Mr. Chicken? Well, Don Knotts plays, again, Luther Heggs. He is a typesetter of the local newspaper who dreams of being a big shot reporter. He's not exactly the bravest guy around. I mean, he never plays a brave character. Other than the bravest he ever played, I think, was Barney Fife, and even then, chicken shit. Yeah, I'm going to be coughing a bit because of my throat, so I'm going to pause so I can take a sip of water. Okay, that helps a bit. Never talk a lot when you got a sore throat. As I was saying, he's not exactly the bravest guy around, but when he gets the chance to prove himself, spending the night in a supposedly haunted mansion, he jumps at it, mostly because he's pressured into it. His competition at the paper was also going in for his love interest in the film, because all these films have to have a love interest. And always two men fighting over the woman. This should also go to Taylor, because I'm recording this today after Women's Day. Women are not trophies for you to be using as possessions. Remember that. Common sense. Now, the old Simmons mansion is infamous in the small town thanks to a grisly murder-suicide that happened 20 years prior. The story goes that Mr. Simmons stabbed his wife to death with a pair of gardening shears. You know, those big garden scissors that you use to cut through branches and stuff. Very sharp. And then he played the pipe organ before taking his own life from leaping from the organ room up top the mansion. And of course, ever since then, weird things have been happening in the house. Mysterious organ music playing at night, ghostly voices, the works. You know, typical haunted house bullshit. I don't know why I call it bullshit. I believe in ghosts. Since 2015, when I was proven wrong. So Luther, our anxious but determined hero, spends the night in the mansion, and let's just say things do not go smoothly. And this is where you could say the film gets a little bit gory for a late 60s horror comedy, especially a Don Knotts film. I'm sorry. What? I don't know what is wrong with my throat. I might have a cold. I don't know. We're going to see it through. As I was saying, the spooky organ music, the floating books, and the portrait of the lady that was murdered literally starts bleeding. There's a pair of gardening shears punctured through the throat of the portrait, and the blood is trickling from the wound down the picture. And here's part that I think is funny, although I think it's a natural reaction to seeing something like that happening, especially in a house that's rumored to be haunted. Is the best part is Luther's reaction. Nobody, and I mean nobody, does scared like Don Knotts. The man turns a simple scream into an art form. But he just goes completely out of it. Seeing the blood, the shears driven into the portrait, the blood trickling, Luther just goes and hits the floor, out cold like a light. And now, if you're seeing anything playing, then I got to use another clip. If not, it's a still frame from the film of the portrait with the shears and the blood and the yeah. And now that my ugly face is back, and you're all excited for that, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a little bit sweaty. It's hot outside, and it's hot in here because the heat's still on. They won't turn the fucking heat off, even though it's 68 degrees outside. And I dress in all black. Now let's talk about why this movie works so well. First and foremost, Don Knotts. The film was made right after he left the Eddie Griffith Show. As I said earlier, I believe I said this, that he left the show after its 5th season, thinking that the show was ending, so he signed with Universal. And this was one of the first films that Universal assigned him to. And every little movement, every stammered line delivery is all golden from Don Knotts. He's a brilliant comedian. And I'm proud that he is a native West Virginian. He's from Morgantown, way high at the top of the state. And then there's a scene at a picnic where he's trying to retell his haunted house experience, and he just keeps going on and on with the same ridiculous metaphors. And then he's having a fight with the microphone, the feedback. And again, you're likely either a clip or an image here to be seen somewhere. It's there someplace. and it's so over the top. It's just hilarious because with Don Knotts, he commits to every role that he plays, and so in this film, he's so committed to the role of Luther Heggs that you believe that he believed what he saw was real, because we're getting into what actually happened the night he was there and what's been going on this entire time. And of course, the supporting cast is also amazing. You've got an all-star cast, in my opinion. Yeah. Picture of cast supporting cast. And the setting. Oh my God. I'm overplaying it. But I mean, the small town vibe of this movie is perfect. You got the Mayberry kind of feel where everybody knows each other and rumors spread like wildfire. The town gossip is practically a character in and of itself. And if you want more of a Mayberry feel, then the opening of the film revolves around what a woman from her house takes as a murder happening, but it's not. But the guy who's claimed to have been murdered was played by Hal Smith, who played Otis on the Andy Griffith Show, The Town Drunk. He has a little cameo in the beginning of the film as a drunk whose wife hates him. So that's a nice little call there to the Mayberry feel of this film, especially just right there in the opening of the film, that little cameo appearance. And then, of course, you've got it's a small town, so as always, and as you should know, rumors and gossip spread like wildfire. Characters, it's like a character in and of itself. It really is. And I like a good movie with a small town feel, even though I love the big city. I live for living in a big city. But for some reason, the small town feel in a movie or a show just. And that's what gives the movie its heart. It's not just a haunted house story. It's not just a funny comedy with horror elements. It's a story about this quirky little town, and it's even quirkier little people. Now let's talk about the horror elements of the film. Is it actually scary? Well, when I first saw this movie, I was a child. I was a wee boy, little lad, a little tot. I was about 9 years old. And I thought it was funny until the night where Luther is actually in the house with his sleeping bag, his flashlight. He's in the house trying to get ready to go to sleep. And then the music is playing, the books, everything. And then what got me, like it got Luther, although I didn't pass out, was the garden shears in the throat of the painting. The blood. The blood. That scared me. I couldn't finish the movie the first time because of that. I waited till like a year later that I went back and watched it where I left it off. Because it played on TV again, so I watched it all the way through. And I stayed watching after the portrait because it didn't scare me this time because I knew that it was going to happen. And it's actually a great movie. But the same thing happens when I watch movies like that when I was a kid. First time I watched the Halloween movie, the first Halloween, I saw every Halloween movie in pieces. So in my young mind, I thought I saw the whole movie, and every single movie that I saw in the franchise was all just one movie because all I saw was clips from the various movies. I didn't know there was a whole franchise because, again, I was 9 and I hadn't watched horror movies up to that point. I was a protected child. I watched them secretly. But back to The Ghost of Mrs. Chicken. Is it actually scary? Now, not really. I mean, it's got enough creepy atmosphere to make it a great introduction to spooky movies for the kids. If you're okay with them saying blood from a painting, I keep over exaggerating the word blood. I don't know why. Now, the mansion itself is a classic haunted house material. It's got dark corridors, cobwebs, that old pipe organ that plays on its own, and the effects were simple by today's standards, and they're still super effective. The bleeding portrait's still a cool, eerie effect, and the organ music haunting in the best way, because I love a good organ music. It's got just the right feel, the right mix of spooky and silly, and so it never feels too intense. Think of it as a Scooby-Doo, but with live actors. And it's funny that we bring up Scooby-Doo because Don Knotts appeared in 2 episodes of the new Scooby-Doo movies. The show that ran in the early 70s. I believe it was the direct follow-up to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I think it aired from 72 to 73. It only aired for 2 seasons. And he was in 2 episodes. One episode he played the detective who looked like Don Knotts. And the second time he actually did play Don Knotts, but he played Don Knotts playing a sheriff in a town called Juneberry. So there's your reference to that. And Don Knotts was also in the Scooby-Doo video game, Scooby-Doo 900 Fights. He also played the groundskeeper in that game. And I'm happy that they included him in the game because of his 2 appearances in the 70s with Scooby-Doo. And now, if you're wondering, were there actually any ghosts in the movie? Was the house actually haunted? Well, here's the twist. Because this is where I think things for you will get interesting if you don't know anything about this movie, and if you're still here listening to spoilers and you didn't take my warning at the beginning of the video. Remember how everyone assumed the house was haunted? Well, it turns out there was something much more real going on. The big twist: there were no ghosts, no vengeful spirits, no supernatural forces at play. Instead, the creepy happenings of the mansion were caused by none other than Mr. Kelsey, the house's quiet, reclusive gardener, who worked at the house at the time that the murder-suicide was supposed to have taken place. And throughout this movie, Luther has been at odds with the current owner of the house, the nephew of the man who killed himself, Nicholas. He's an old crotchety fucker who is back in town to do things with the house because he has a secret. And then this is why Mr. Kelsey was working in the house, because Mr. Kelsey knows the truth. Why he was playing the spooky organ music in the middle of the night, because the town's so-called murder-suicide never actually happened. The way people believed. The real story, Mr. Simmons never killed his wife. Instead, his nephew Nicholas was the real villain. He was the one who murdered Mr. Simmons, and when Mr. Simmons tried to defend himself, Nicholas attacked him, leading to an entirely different crime than what the town had believed for decades. For 2 decades. Mr. Kelsey had been keeping quiet all these years, knowing the truth, but fearing Nicholas's power in the town, because he's a very powerful bastard. We always fear a man with immense power. But Luther's bumbling investigation ends up accidentally bringing the real story to light, and in the end, justice is finally served. Nicholas is arrested for the murders. Mr. Kelsey goes on with life. Luther is declared a hero because he solved a 2-decade-old crime. So yeah, Luther doesn't just survive a haunted house, he actually solves a murder case completely by accident. Because he went to the house trying to prove to everyone that the happenings that he went through actually happened, but nothing that he went through was going on. People think he's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. And in doing so, he solves a 20-year-old murder case. Double murder case. And I like how the movie plays this out, because we go from a lighthearted ghost story to a straight-up mystery reveal, and it works surprisingly well. Plus, it gives Luther a rare moment of triumph. The town fully sees him as more than just a nervous goofball. He gets the credit he's been dreaming of, and of course, he gets the girl, because it ends with a wedding. With a little bit of disembodied organ playing. Ooh, spooky. And to this day, I think the movie worked pretty well. I think this movie still holds up as a great classic horror comedy. I think if you haven't seen it, and if you're still wanting to watch it, even after all the spoilers, give it a watch. It's a good movie. To me, it's Don Knotts at his finest. And in that, and because of it being old and with the simple effects, I give this movie, with taking in mind the horror aspect, 4 out of 5 pipe organs. And remember, what information is good advice. If you're ever in doubt, just yell, "Attaboy, Luther," and hope for the best.
And there are my brothers. shoes. That's why they fell off.
Attaboy, Luther!